Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good morning and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and today we have a great show for you guys. It's going to be super interesting, and we have a really interesting article that's going to cap off the show today. So we have a ton coming for you today, so get ready for a great show coming along. All right, so without further ado, let me get this going here, and I'm not sure if this is going to work right, but we're going to head to the main here. And we're joined by Vertical Grislow here.
Hello, everyone. This was just working just before we were on the stream where we do our kind of pre-show prep. And literally all of a sudden, 44 seconds in, Discord decided to do a little switch on me. So I'm going to try my best.
I think it's just funny in general.
The Vertical Grislow, I wish this would work. Like, I had it set up for the people who, well, I guess no one was listening to the pre-show stuff. I just got a new monitor, and so where I usually would have my iPad to stream this all off is kind of no longer there. Actually, I'm holding the thing that used to hold my iPad, which is now occupied by monitor. Suffice to say, I was trying to work on a new setup today, and unfortunately, I'm sideways.
Well, the funniest thing is though, he is literally saying the truth here. Like we were like what 40 seconds out of actually starting the thing, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm sideways," and then we're just kind of here, and he's messing with this obviously, but it's one of those things where it's like we did not expect this at all. So
Still sideways.
Yeah, you're still sideways.
I thought I'd be able to, like, to hack it. This is really like it doesn't want to go.
Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't want to go.
I'm like that. What? Ooh, okay, we're rocking this.
Yeah,
today.
just keep it like that for now. Honestly,
you've got Column Grislow.
Yeah, Column Grislow.
Oh boy,
Vertical Grislow.
Yeah, well, it is what it is today. I don't really know why it is doing this, but we're gonna rock with this.
Right. Well,
so
anyway,
you only get this.
Getting into the news here. The first article I want to talk quickly about is the Postal Service. The U.S. Postal Service is reportedly monitoring America's social media for, quote, inflammatory content. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. Long story short, the article puts these little bulletin points here, the little TLDR, thank you insider for this article. Basically, the law enforcement arm of USPS is running a covert program known as ICOP, monitors America's social media for inflammatory posts, and a memo obtained by Yahoo includes identifying details and screenshots of users' Parler accounts. Long story short, in the article, they just kind of detail why the reasoning they think they do it, mainly to protect mail carriers and bring them out of danger. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, Grislow. What do you think?
Yeah, if you were ever to ask me before I read this article, if you were to ask me, is government surveilling its citizens, specifically social media? I would say probably yes, but we wouldn't know about it. I think it's probably fair to say. And it's actually interesting because our high school did exactly that with us back in the day. They would monitor our social media. If you said anything bad about our high school, they would, bring in, and it would be like a Gestapo style thing where they'd bring you into the office, talk to you, and be like, you got to take that down. It's not okay. You can't do that. It's what private high schools can do. I would expect the government to do the same, but I wouldn't expect us to know about it. I also wouldn't expect the U.S. Postal Service to be sort of in charge of this. So I'm surprised that the Postal Service is kind of behind it, but I'm also not surprised that this is a current program that, the government has going. Do I like it? Do I love it? No. Although to note, it's not like they're going in and looking at DMs and stuff. They're looking at publicly available information. And I think I've said this a few times, and we have talked about this in regards to privacy, internet privacy. I personally feel like whatever I put out there is fair game. And so if I post a picture of it, I don't know, I'm in Santa Barbara, Florida, then everyone knows I'm in Santa Barbara, Florida, or at least I was at some point in time. If I post anything on social media, like, it's fair game. So I'm not really gonna, raise a red flag here about a new surveillance program. It's not like a Snowden-esque thing. But it does give me a little pause of concern, I suppose, for how I view our United States Postal Service. I don't know what your thoughts are, Fitz.
I mean, I agree with you in a lot of cases with that, especially. Am I happy it exists? No. Do I expect it? Yes. And like you put it, anything on social media there, um, that you make public is public. That's what it is. And if people want to use that for their data projects, whatever, in my opinion, by making it public, you are now allowing whoever, whatever, to do whatever they want with that thing. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you still retain the right to actually own that thing, but they can analyze it, they can do whatever. And that's why a lot of social media platforms have the option of making things private and kind of hiding it. But if you do make stuff public, I could see that. If an organization goes around privacy filters to get into private things, that's where I start having a problem.
Right. Yeah, I think especially too if it came out that the USPS was able to acquire like DMs between people, or other like instant messaging services, that or at least the back end DM special interconnecting message system, message board that a lot of these platforms have, then I would start having a problem with that. Because that's not what you post, publicly. That's why they're called DMs or direct messages.
Directs, yes.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's definitely something that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we move through the next couple months, at least, because I'm sure this is going to open up a lot of investigation and red flags and stuff, and I'm sure we'll see a little bit more about this coming down the pipeline. Alrighty, the next thing I wanted to talk about, and Matt, you were there, you watched it, you saw what was going on. Apple had an event last week.
yes, yeah, they did. On Tuesday on 420, Apple hosted their first event, product release event of 2021. My first takeaway actually is not even anything to do with the products, and I don't know if you want to pop up the page or not up their website, but
Alrighty,
what my first takeaway, at least what we could do is when we start talking about products. My first takeaway was their event is actually comparable to a movie. They've Because their events aren't allowed to be in person because of coronavirus restrictions, they've actually made this event sort of like a little movie. They have transitions, they have effects. It's actually spectacular to watch. I remember watching one of the tech reviewers talk about it, and he said, I watch it once for the products, for the initial shock value, just to be there and to be present while, hearing about it for the first time. Then I watch it again for the specs of all the new products, so I know exactly what's going on with the new products. But then I watched it a third time for the spectacle of it all, because they truly have a phenomenal video quality, production quality to their videos, the release videos. So that there's something about that. But in terms of the products they've actually unveiled, they talk about services to start. So now they have a new feature on the Apple credit card where if you share a credit card with someone else, your lines of credit, you both accrue or build credit. It's not one or the other, and it doesn't negatively impact one versus the other, which is good for people who share an Apple card. Also, for the services, they've revamped their Apple Podcasts, which I don't really use, so I can't really speak so intelligently on. I'm
pretty sure this
kind of like a
actually,
Spotify.
I'm pretty sure this is
Go.
published on Apple Podcasts. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so there you go. I'm a Spotify person myself, but they are revamping that, and then you get into the more product releases. So if you want to go to, I believe it was, well, technically they unveiled the purple iPhone first. I believe.
Here, let
So
me
it's gonna be a
pop
new
that up
color
right here.
iPhone. They've unveiled a new color for the spring. It's sort of like a lilac, like a lavender color, and it's purple.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
This guy
they've
right
done
here.
yeah, they've done purple iPhones in the past, so this isn't new. Um, it's just a new color. Personally, I think it's kind of cheap to say that, oh, we unveiled a new phone today, when really you just unveiled a new color for a phone that's been out for what, 6 months now. I To me, that was the biggest like sort of non-product release. I guess technically you could say the services were, but they're inherently services, not products. So I would say of all of the releases they had, the iPhone 12, Purple Edition would be kind of like the lowest announcement. I don't know, it just wasn't that wild. No one was getting anything new, just a new color. The next thing I believe they unveiled, were these iMacs. These iMacs are interesting. They're a brand new generation. Apple just I want to say a month or two ago stopped selling the previous generation, or stopped selling new ones on their site. So it was kind of no shock to people that they were going to be unveiling new iMacs. They're colored. They're all kinds of different colors. Sort of similar to like their iPhone SE line, or maybe it's their iPhone 12 line of different colors of products. So they've got a lot of cool new colors. They're incredibly thin, and very, very capable. Actually, they're so thin that to include the aux port, to continue to include an aux port, they had to put it on the side, because it is so deep that if they put it in the back, it actually would have forced Apple to make that panel thicker to accommodate it, and so instead they included it on the side. You have, I believe, all of those ports there are Thunderbolt ports.
Hmm.
Yep, 4 Thunderbolt ports, or at least 2 Thunderbolt ports on the back there. Power cable that also acts as Ethernet if you can plug it into the brick that is eventually on the other side of that cable. It has a very huge, I believe they have 24 inches. They're
Yes.
24-inch MacBook Macs. Excuse me, not MacBooks. They have a 1080p, I believe, FaceTime camera, and so you'll be able to, yeah, there you go. Yep, FaceTime HD camera, so you're able to have video calls and things like that, which are important right now in today's day and age for consumers that are trying to do video calls from home. So they've done a lot of cool new improvements with it. They've added a ton of mics. They've done some speakers in that bottom portion. I have not practiced this before with Fitz, so it's hilarious that we're going through this as you're scrolling down and basically hitting all the points. And yes, now powered by the M1 chip that they unveiled last year. This thing's incredibly capable, and actually it is sort of the star of this product release. Not just this product, but also some of the others at this event, and we'll get into in a second here.
But
The
yeah,
one thing that Fitz, if you wanted to interject.
yeah, I just wanted to interject. Um, well, I'll go into a little bit of opinion on this stuff, but basically, I'm not sure how I feel about all the colors and stuff like that. I mean, I want a traditional, if I want a MacBook, don't want it to be blue or red or like orange or whatever.
Yep.
Um, I just want it to be like silver or black or white
Yep.
or something that's more traditional Apple-y.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting articles that I popped up by CNET here, I was reading this a little earlier. Um, it's an op-ed, so basically commentary, how Apple's iMacs color match today's home fashions trends, and basically
Hmm.
they were going into how home design has changed, and now in your office, this is going to be a focal point of your room rather than just something shoved up against a wall, the way home
Huh.
design has changed. And you
Right.
could kind of see that here where all the colors match and all that stuff. Apple posted this picture and where it'll show a very simplistic setup, and how people are kind of like wanting to use something like this as a status symbol and making the minimalistic and simplistic home office a new thing with the post-COVID world here. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but that I just thought it was an interesting read. Please
You know,
have a look at this
it's
article if you're interested.
yeah, it's actually, you bring up a very good point, and it's actually sort of a central idea to the new design of these iMacs, and specifically for this reason. If you take a look at these things, they're incredibly thin, they're incredibly slim. And actually, if you look at the previous generation versus this new generation, they used to have the Apple logo down in the center of that little chin. They've moved that to the back now, and it's on that beautifully colored back panel. Um, and they've also changed the bezels now from black to white, which is also very interesting. But you're very right. It kind of breathes this new air of this new design language into these iMacs, and it does create a sort of focal on that back panel, on that color back panel. And so it is very interesting to see how other people are reacting to it. But I think it is kind of interesting, especially while we're talking about this design here, since they have moved that Apple logo to the back. To me, that chin really does nothing, at least aesthetically. Now, in terms of practical means, reasoning for having that, that's where they house the mics and the speakers and some of the electronics. And so actually a lot of what's behind that panel now, that display, is actually just for their heat sink and trying to dissipate heat,
Right.
which really speaks volumes to what Apple has been able to accomplish here with that M1 chip, trying to integrate all sorts of systems on that system on a chip. But it does kind of beg the question, why did they have to go out of the way to include this big chin at the bottom of their displays on their new iMacs, where they could have just slunk this in the back? And even as thin as they are now, people probably wouldn't bat an eye if they were, another quarter of an inch thicker, another 10 millimeters thicker, 5 millimeters, God forbid, right?
Right. And the other thing too with this is they don't have a battery to worry about in situations like this. So there's a fair bit of space back there. I mean, I'm sure they tried to make it as thin as possible. I'm sure there's thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars that engineering that went into this specific thing being this specific width with this specific layout for this specific reason. But I agree, like, what could you rearrange, what could you make this thing design better, and what's kind of the problem here. iPads are able to be an iPad with a full screen, a battery, and everything all kind of sandwiched together. This is just kind of a, a tablet with a big looking chin at the bottom. So
Exactly, yeah. So I think it's kind of funny. They focus so
yeah,
much on the design of these things, but they kind of
this
forgot
right
about,
here.
like, what. Yeah, so that's, so
Yeah,
for people that are unaware, that little space underneath that display is what we're referring to as the chin. It's the part of the device that really serves no
well, they do have
um,
a
aesthetic purpose. It's more of just a functional purpose, because underneath there, inside there, is where they're housing a lot of these components. If you're able to find a cross section or some sort of internal picture of the iMac on this page, it'd be great, because it
let
would
me
be able to
see.
show the internals and the heat sinking. But I guess while you look at that, I can go on to the next thing. And I I certainly know how I feel on this one. The next thing, if they unveil
Couldn't
are
find it,
new.
by the way. Yeah,
Okay,
I could
if
see
you can
it.
find it, if you can just Google search it, I'm sure they have something at the event where it was like a video, and they probably screen grabbed it or whatever. If you could find it, try and find it. If not, I'll just move on. Um, the next and second to last product they unveiled were new Apple TVs. So now they are able to support 120 hertz refresh. They now feature a new remote. The remote is actually one of my sticking points of the Apple TV. One of the things that I really don't like about the current Apple TV. In fact, I actually have one of the remotes here to kind of explain. And so this is what the current Apple TV remote looks like. See if I can get it in frame here. All right.
There you go.
This is the current Apple TV remote. You've got a sort of touchpad interface here. And so you can scroll or move and navigate the page or wherever you are with this guy. Then you have your sort of back button. I'm sorry, this is the home button. And then you have your home button, back button. And then you've got your Siri, play, pause, and volume up, down. So that's what this remote has. That's the features this one has, and it's incredibly slim, if you can see that. And it has that IR receiver, and so you're able to toggle the TVs, the actual TV, your physical TV in your room's volume. What they've changed with this now is if you can pull it up, here you go. So you can see in the new remote there, they've almost, and actually this is kind of cool, they've harkened back to the iPod era. And so now instead of this big touch interface at the top, you have this sort of scrolling wheel and touch button in the inside thing, this component at the top. And so what now you can do some sort of fine scrolling if you do circular movements clockwise or counterclockwise. And it'll bring your content forward or backward as sort of a skip feature or fine scrolling feature. They still include the same home button. They also have a back button. They've kind of changed the way they show that. They still have the volume button. They now have a mute button, which is kind of neat. But they've moved the Siri button to the side, and they've also included a new power button at the top, which I think is kind of nice because the way that they work now, which is sort of a learning feature for the Apple TV to know or kind of learn on its own whether or not it's able to turn the TV on or off. It's just based on how long you've used it, and so the device kind of learns that, oh, you're using the Apple TV remote, you want to turn the Apple TV, you want to turn your TV on. Now it has an integrated button. Now, when I first saw the remote, my initial response was, oh, this is horrible. You went from this light device to this fully aluminum enclosure. I'm not really sure if I like it or not. But I do like that they included a power button. I do like that they've gone away with the previous big touchpad. To me, that was one of the biggest sticking points. It's so finicky, and it's very hard to get good, accurate feedback on this remote because of the design. And so I am interested to see how that works. I really do want to check this thing out at Best Buy. And because you can buy this separately, I am thinking of buying it for my Apple TV setup here. Now, my actual hardware, this is the Apple TV 4K, the previous version. The one they have now, I believe the really big difference is they put I want to say they put the A12 in it, the A12 Bionic chip from the iPhone. And they've also been able to have it work with 120 hertz refresh rate capabilities. So that's kind of where that product is now. Again, I think the Apple TV is a good product, but it's hard to sell now because so many companies are making these smart TVs, and so they have all these features that you don't really need an Apple TV for. They already have AirPlay integrated into. Did I get cut off there?
No, you just froze for a second. You're good.
Well, as I was saying, they already have integrated a lot of these features into standard TVs. For example, AirPlay is now integrated into a lot of these TVs. The service, Apple TV Plus, I believe you can get on other TVs. The whole idea, this whole app thing, again, they have these on these other TVs. Whether or not you like the OS, like for example, my TV is the LG C10. It's a 4K HDR OLED TV, and I love it.
We get it. You have a cool TV.
But I initially bought an Apple TV for it because I didn't really love the interface, or really the remote, because I like this one. The only thing I don't like about this is how slim it is, how easy it is to lose, and so I'm not sure if that's going to be fixed in this new Apple TV. A big thing was Find My in this event. And so they also, and I guess I'll pin it in the Apple TV conversation here. More to come, maybe. I may buy a new remote, but we'll see. The last two things I almost forgot, actually. The first product they did unveil were these AirTags. They're basically these little tile-like devices. They tap into the Find My network that Apple already has, and they basically can track whatever you want. They have these cases that are, you can have them or not. They cost $29.99, I believe, individually, and a 4-pack costs $99.99. So they are priced fairly competitively. The only thing is that they have that sort of aluminum back, and so people are already finding that they're very easy to scratch. So that's going to be an interesting thing to follow up on in the future. Like I said, it taps in their Find My network, and so they actually have this mode where they're able to tap into the U1 chip of the iPhones and sort of basically make your phone into a compass when you're trying to find whatever you're trying to find that the AirTag is attached to or inside of. And so it'll tell you how far you are, and it'll actually have an on-display sort of compass interface. And so you're able to sort of like use almost like a treasure map to find your buried treasure, but in this case, find your lost products. And so you're also able to customize it with different emoji or different
Press
characters.
Press X to doubt.
Oh no. Actually, that is a very interesting thing that you did mention here. The battery. So it has this removable battery. It's standard button cell style battery. And supposedly it should last a year. Now, if it does work very similarly to the tiles, I can say, or I can say at least from experience that they work. They do work. At least the tiles do with that similar battery for a year. And so if this is similar, and I know Apple, they do some good stuff. Their products are pretty decent, especially if they're not going to be putting a lithium-ion battery that they put in their products in this new tile style device. I really do actually think that it really could be a year's worth of battery life, but we'll see. Honestly, anything over a few, let's say 6 months, is still pretty good on a button cell style battery. So we'll see with that. I want to get your thoughts on that before I move to the last one product.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be super interesting to see how this is accepted by the market. Like, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, I don't know, and then there's going to be a bunch of people who are like, I'll take 20. So I'll just be interested to see how this kind of works out, how people are accepting this, whether they're actually useful, and if their battery life is actually what they say it is. So
yeah, and I think it actually really as the last sort of commentary on the AirTags, I think the interesting thing to look for going forward is is Apple going to start integrating third-party lost device tags into their Find My network?
right.
I can see this becoming an anti-competitive thing where now they have their own product. And yes, while they may start allowing other companies to integrate the Find My system into their product, they may still bar other companies from attaching their own small little Find My AirTag style device like the Tile into their network. So we'll see if that eventually pans out.
Definitely.
The last thing, yeah. So the last thing, actually, and again, I kick myself in the butt a little bit, not only for the Apple TV thing, because I just did buy an Apple TV a few months ago, but also for the iPad. The iPad, in my opinion, and in a lot of other tech reviewer opinions, is that it is a highly regarded, highly capable tablet. For the price that you pay, you are paying for a highly capable tablet, and in some cases, if you can spec it right, it can basically be a workstation computer. It really can be to some degree of use. So now what they've done this year is they've stopped using souped up Apple chips. They used to put sort of like an X moniker after it, so you'd have like the A10X, the A12 Bionic X. No longer. Now for the Pro model iPads, at least, they are now installing M1 chips into their iPads. And so now you're able to get some crazy performance out of these bad guys. The other big sort of announcement is they've now integrated mini LED technology into the large 12.9-inch iPad Pro. And so now you're able to get brightnesses in nits ranging from like 1,000 to 14 or 1,600 nits. That's pretty crazy. That's a very bright display. It helps with the contrast. It helps with video editing, with photo editing, sharing, viewing. So that's good. They've also added 5G to it. And one of the cool things, actually, I think is one of the coolest features, is they've updated the FaceTime camera, and it's now a ultra wide camera. So they're able to use software and hardware features to kind of revamp the camera. And so now what you have, for example, you're on a FaceTime call, and you're in your kitchen, right? And you've got your iPad on your counter, and you're moving around the display. Well, because you now have an ultra wide camera, it's able to basically keep you in frame while you're moving around your kitchen during your FaceTime call. So you'll never have to hold your phone or your camera with you, or your iPad with you when you FaceTime people. So it's kind of interesting, kind of cool. Finally, they've added Thunderbolt to the port, so now it's a more capable device for adding external displays. And so yeah, their event was pretty wild. The one thing I thought I would see that I didn't see were new Apple Pencils. Also, new AirPods. I was expecting the new third generation of AirPods, similar in styling to maybe the AirPod Pros, but that to come maybe for the next, possibly as uh, a tail end to their WWDC announcements when they unveil some of the software. Typically, sometimes they unveil a little bit of Mac hardware. So maybe we'll see it there. Possibly they'll push it off to the fall Apple iPhone event. So we'll see what happens. But overall, a fairly good event. We'll see how these products are received, how people actually are able to tap into the now incredible power of the iPad Pros, and we'll see we'll see how people enjoy these new Apple TV remotes. I will be possibly picking one up and reviewing it myself. So we'll see how that
Nice.
goes.
Very cool. Well, I think we've beat that into the ground enough. So Apple, please sponsor us, please. That would be
Onward.
nice.
Well, we also have was it Samsung's event tomorrow? So I'm excited to watch that, hear about that, and see what they've got coming.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
And I think it is a mostly computer event too, so it does sort of parallel nicely to Apple's Mac and iPad unveilings.
Right. Alrighty. In other news, Google is actually piloting a program called Google Guacamole that will let you use voice assistant without saying "Hey Google." I don't know how I feel about this. I'm a huge privacy guy. Like I want them to trigger things when I trigger them. I don't want to and my thing on my phone just triggered too. Huh. But I want them to not hear what I say normally. And I just want to tell them to do something when I want them to do something. I don't want them to automatically do things that I just say. So that's a little bit about this article. I'm not sure how you feel about that, Matt or Grislow. Yeah, you gave me crap about that before this. Basically, you're like, stop calling me Matt on the thing, and I'm like,
Okay. Well, the reason why is because so this is the podcast that we do from two or typically three separate locations, right? And so we don't really have that sort of in-person, interpersonal sort of dynamic. And so aside from that, we also have known each other for what is it, 8, 9 years at this
probably
point?
10 at this point.
God, a decade with you? Oh
God,
man.
but
Um, so because we don't have that interpersonal sort of connection, in person vibe, we need to have it over the podcast in some way. And so you calling me Matt is fine, but also it's almost like robotic and like you don't know me. But we've known each other for years.
yeah,
I mean,
fair.
we've got stories. We've got stories. We could tell till we get in our 80s, right?
Right.
Um, but what I'm trying to make my point here is like
Speaking of
we're friends. We
interpersonal,
know each other for a while. Let's act like friends, right?
yeah, there we go. But
um,
interpersonal stuff, though, how do you feel about just the good old Google just listening to what you normally do?
so I'll be honest, I don't really know too much about this. I'm curious though because, um, and I don't really know how it works, but at least I had thought at least one of the major companies that has one of these products, an AI or whatever we want to call them, a smart assistant. They do listen, but they don't save the information. But it's all, until they hear the triggering words is when they sort of quote unquote like tune in.
Hmm.
So I'm really curious how that works with this because how can you? I guess it's just commands. It's just
It's mhm.
instead of saying hey insert a voice assistant here,
It
find me a
says
restaurant nearby. It I would love to go away from that whole hey, and I'm sorry for everyone that has devices, but hey Google, like hey Siri, whatever, Alexa. I really in the comments please if you've been if I triggered a device, I want to know the count. Because I'd be curious how many people are not only are tuning in, but also how many devices people have, and comment what device and what smart assistant you use. I use
right.
Siri on all mine. Fitz, I don't know about you.
I used a mishmash of a little bit of everything. But in the article, it says guacamole would let you say stop, snooze, answer call, and decline call without needing to say the trigger word. So, useful stuff I could see. But this is the beginning. What
Yeah,
happened?
I'm all for making it like exactly like simple, like answer the phone, call Fitz on speaker. If I could say that without saying, "Hey Siri, call Fitz on speaker," like that'd be great. Um, but again, I think it goes back to the whole idea or the whole the how is it working type thing, like the inner machinations,
Right.
of these virtual assistants. How long are they saving this data for when they're listening? Because you really can't like not listen all the time. You
Right.
have to, but it's what they're doing with the data or what they're doing with the recordings, of that data before you enact some sort of uh, gesture or some sort of feature on your phone or try and do something, right? Um, so that's what you got to look for, I think, when you're dealing with this, and I think that's what we have to ask more of these companies, and especially with guacamole, how long are they going to be storing the data for? At what point do they make the decision that now this person is asking for a request? So now we're going to start listening to their data. Like, when does that truly start? And how smart is this system where it truly does know that you're talking to it versus having an offhand conversation with someone and all of a sudden it tunes in and hears you? I can't say how many times my phone with Siri goes off saying just nonsensical stuff. I would never think that it would trigger my device. And it's funny because I have it tuned to my voice. So you'd think that it wouldn't really do that, but you know, the technology's, I guess, not really there yet. Who knows?
Who knows? Speaking along the lines of communications here, there was an article that Grislow you sent in, basically saying more than one scribe wrote the text of a Dead Sea Scroll. The handwriting shows, basically using pattern recognition and AI techniques, it opens up a new window into these ancient worlds, basically analyzing the handwriting throughout the entire um, scroll to see if there was differences in the people writing it, which is insane. Uh, do you want to explain a little bit more on that one?
Yeah. So, you know, I believe the first scrolls were found in the 40s or 50s. Um, and these are very fragile. They're very, very hard to manipulate and hold in your hands. And so very smart, very good. New technology is always good for understanding these scrolls more. And so you have this one scroll for the book of Isaiah. And I believe it's one of the most complete scrolls. And I believe this is the one that is talked about in the article.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most complete scrolls. But for the longest time, it was believed that one person wrote the scroll, and so at least how they had been doing it is you would have one person, you would look at and self-analyze an entire document, at least a section of a document, and they would themselves look with their own eyes at, for example, the way that they wrote a certain character or a certain word. And again, they have to keep that image of one, let's, for example, A character in their mind and in their memory, the recent memory, and then go to the next character and continually do this through an entire section of an article or of a scroll to analyze it and to see whether or not it was just one person that wrote it versus several people. And what they've been able to do is use artificial intelligence and image recognition to analyze an entire scroll, and they found that it was actually written by two different scribes, one that was mimicking the style of the previous one, and they were able to find subtle, not inconsistencies, but subtle variations in the characters that they wrote in these scrolls. That would be so hard for one person to do on their own. So it's amazing to see that we have this technology. It's able to decipher thousands upon thousands of years ago, or thousands of years ago, whatever it was. Um, not exactly who wrote it, but we at least know that it wasn't just one person.
Right.
And so they've only done this on the Isaiah scroll, and now they're thinking about, and I'm sure they will expand this program to the other Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot of them, and so it could be interesting to see what we find out using this technology. That, oh, well, maybe there was a large group of these people that wrote it. Maybe it wasn't just 5 or 6 guys or whatever they think it is.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm definitely interested to see in the future how we can leverage AI, how we can leverage technology to better understand historical stuff rather than even the future as a whole, just understanding history, being able to correlate events, do basically the way I think of this entire situation is this AI is providing another perspective that a researcher or historian just couldn't, and that's where I see the true value in this type of technology being applied to history rather than future, like predicting things or being future focused. This is looking at historical data instead.
It's almost like uh, the newest tool of digital archaeology, right? You've got, carbon dating. Through carbon dating, we know how old these scrolls are. And through carbon dating, we know all kinds of stuff about all kinds of things. Dinosaur bones, you know, all kinds of things. So we've had technology before in this archaeology, department, right? Let's call it. But now you've had this new AI that you're able to analyze documents and give more maybe context to it. Maybe not direct information, but like carbon dating, but context. So yeah, this digital archaeology is pretty interesting, and it'd be really cool to see how they use this in the future. I think actually one thing that could be useful for this, or a good use case for this, and I'm not sure if it's already been used, and so maybe it is, maybe it's not. But verifying signatures, verifying autographs. I think that'd be a pretty cool use case for this technology.
Yeah, definitely. And if it isn't, it sounds like a cool opportunity. Definitely. Um,
Because I mean it's a hard profession because you have to be trained on hundreds upon hundreds of documents that X person has signed, and then you have to cross reference it with this document someone's bringing to you, and on top of that, signatures do change over time. Some people change up their styles. Some people get sloppier. People may develop ALS, and so they're not able to uh, sign the way they used to. And so let's give you a pretty interesting new use case for this technology.
huh. Yeah, there's an article on Medium here that basically says how somebody made an AI that does that. So, uh, yeah, definitely interesting. Um, it'll be interesting to see like really good fakes though, if that will actually mess with it. But anyway, cool. Yeah, I definitely hope that this is a thing in the future and we're able to see that. So, up next, we got a couple quick fire rapid stories here that I just want to kind of talk about real quick. First one, Elon Musk will host Saturday Night Live on May 8th. Uh, he is the first tech CEO to ever host a SNL episode. There were a couple businessmen who hosted them before. Brandon Tarketoff and Yankees George Steinbrenner. Basically, they hosted before, but they were business people. First time a tech CEO will be hosting. In other Elon Musk news, SpaceX Crew Dragon flew to the International Space Station. It is absolutely phenomenal to see the live video of this and watch it happen and all that stuff. So, not sure how you feel about that one, Grislow.
I'm I think this is pretty cool. This is cool stuff. I'm happy that we're getting to this point where we're able to reuse rockets and reuse all this really expensive technology that is a big gatekeeper for scientific discovery and innovation. And so I'm all for this type of stuff. And to see this, this is just proof that it's working. This is a concept that that was people thought was impossible prior to Elon Musk and the SpaceX team really taking it on, and they've not only proven that it works once, that their product works, but now they've proven the reusability aspect that it also works.
Right.
And also, I mean, aside from that, I believe the Russians just unveiled. They just announced that they are stepping away from the ISS, and so what that means is they're probably not going to they're not going to be sending astronauts anymore. So the feasibility for sending American astronauts with the Soyuz, low to none. Also, if the Americans did go back to the Russians to ask them to send us up to space, they'd probably jack the price up because they aren't sending Soyuz up there anymore. So this just further proves that we're able to do it. Anything you can do, I can do better. Sort of spirit of the United States, and also just how exciting it is that we're seeing these promises fully being fully being realized.
Right, definitely. Definitely. Um, yeah, I'm going to be interested to see where we head with that. Other quick news story, Honda is phasing out gas cars, aiming for 100% electric in North America by 2040. That's interesting to see for me, at least. They call it a goal, not a commitment. Basically saying the same thing as a lot of their other competitors. I know GM has been saying something similar to that as well. Not sure how you feel on that one.
It's every day we see new articles about companies and governments, claiming support for being and going green and fully integrating electric vehicles into our society and trying to make them, the predominant force on our roads. I'm not quite sure how that'll shake out. I know yeah, there's a lot of craze and buzz about electric vehicles, but there are a few barriers that need to be crossed before companies can really take advantage of the technology, and leverage it to its fullest capabilities. Number one is the cost. They need to drive the cost of these cars down to make them more affordable, more available. They need to increase the amount of tax incentives. That would really help. In terms of a government infrastructure bill, which is going through the United States Senate right now, this would be, and this is something that is in their bill, charging stations, to try and get more people to go electric. You got to bring the price of that down some way. So tax incentives, charging stations, whatever it is, put those in. But also, you have this culture of petrol heads, of these guys that really don't want to give up this sort of combustion engine, not lifestyle, but this market. And so, and it's very, very, very much beloved by a lot of people. There are tons of people out there that do not want to switch from a combustion engine style vehicle to electric. And so we'll see as time goes by. And one thing to note, it's a goal. It's not a commitment completely.
Right.
And so I believe in there, they still say they're still open to having some combustion engines being sold at the time in parallel with these electric vehicles. I think the best way to look at it as Honda would be, okay, we will commit to attempting to do this, or at least we will commit by 2040. Every vehicle that we have that as a combustion engine, we will also have an electric variant. I think that's probably a good way to go about it. And by then, when you give consumers the options over in the next 20 years, right? Then we'll fully know whether or not this whole electric vehicle thing is really going to work out. I think it honestly ultimately will, and it probably will have to for the environment's sake. But it's going to be hard for the consumers to fully come around to that.
Right. Definitely. And we'll just have to kind of wait and see for it, at least. So, alrighty. Next news story, real quick. Discord ended its deal talks with Microsoft. Basically, long story short, there was chattering about Discord potentially selling to Microsoft for like something ridiculous, like at least $10 billion. But they're going to be instead taking a look at maybe an IPO instead. So I'm excited that they're staying separate from Microsoft for now, and we'll see if talks resume in the future. So, yeah. Next one here. We got, I'm going to botch your name. I am so sorry. Emily Ratajkowski is selling an NFT at Christie's auction house. And
I
Matt,
think
you
you were
sent.
close.
Oh, I got it? Okay, cool.
I think it's red. I think it is Reddit. See, I can't even say it. So model
Ratajkowski, I think,
model
yeah.
lady.
Model lady, very pretty.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's selling a NFT at Christie's. Um, and I was reading this article, and I'll be honest with you, I was a little confused. because basically they took like portraits of her or something, and people sold them, and like they didn't want to, and like it was really
I
weird.
think I can explain it. I think I have a good grasp on it now. I read it a few times because I myself was a little confused about this, and there's actually a lot of interesting implications of this. Um, we talked about NFTs a few times on the show, and I think one of the points that was brought up a few times was, or if it hasn't, today is absolutely going to be that day, about how, like, what's the originality of an NFT? Like, truly, if an NFT doesn't really originate from the seller, what happens? And so this is a great example of this. And I honestly, as small of a story as this is, I'm kind of excited to see this one unfold because this could set the standard for how NFTs move forward. And so the story behind this one is Emily Ratajkowski. I hope I said her name right. She is a model. She's been a model for a while, and so she's got a lot of art. She started when she was younger, and so she feels like she was taken advantage of when she was younger. And so there was this artist, this guy, who had taken all these pictures of her when she was younger, and basically kind of ripped her off and only paid her a very, very small amount, a few $100s, I believe, for her time, where he made a lot of money off of these pictures of her that sold. And she had tried to get access to these pictures or paintings of the pictures, um, and got one or two of them, but didn't really get them. And so she went back to them and got she got what she called an Instagram portrait. And so it's a picture of hers that she posted. That includes, it's basically a screenshot on Instagram, so it includes some of the content on Instagram, and so it's a screenshot of the site with that picture in it. Well, the NFT she's selling, and she purchased that painting from that guy, this Prince guy. Well, now she's selling this as an NFT, and so a picture of her. She's selling it. To be clear, she's selling a picture of her in front of this painting, which includes art that she purchased from someone else, but in the art, it's of a picture of her.
Yeah, I think it's
And so
this.
in her account. So it's really interesting because you get into this whole thing about who owns what here. Like, yes, that's her in the picture or in the portrait in the picture, and I believe it's also her account too. But that artwork that picture is featured in is not technically hers. She purchased it, and so now she's taking a picture of that portrait with a picture of her in it. And so there's a lot of layers of complexity there about the person who, made the deal with her with the picture initially, and then you have on top of that you have the rights with this portrait, and it's all her in this, right? And so it's really interesting to see how it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds because you have a lot of layers of ownership here.
Right, exactly. And who owns what? What's copyrighted to who? Does Instagram have a stake in it because it's technically their UI? Like there's all sorts of stuff here, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens or anything with this, because you could consider like stuff. I forget the exact number of it, but there's some clause in there for like satirical or derivative works and stuff like that. Uh, I'm not a copyright lawyer, so I am not super familiar on the topic. Don't take any of this as legal advice. We should just get rid of the disclaimers. No legal advice,
If we
no
ever make
financial
merch, we better
advice.
make merch. We better make merch that says we are not legally responsible or something like that because we've said that so many times on this show.
Right, right. But yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see what goes on here. Next article we got for you today. This I found super interesting. And I actually want to highlight a comment underneath this article here. Long story short, Disney's Imagineering Project Kiwi built a freestanding walking around Groot. And this is very different from their traditional like animatronics and robots, because they aren't fixed in one position. This little guy's actually walking around here and doing all sorts of stuff. They, of course, I picked the one part of the video where he's not. Um, here it is. Yeah, there's little guy walking around here and doing all this stuff. Like, it's really interesting to see them move away from the stationary animatronic to stuff that's a little more mobile and moving around and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what your take on this one is, Matt.
Oh no, that's
Grislow, I
I.
did it again. Gosh darn it. But
Damn, you are gonna pull my leg for that for the longest
oh,
time.
100%.
Um, you know what? I think it really does make sense. Um, Disney was founded what in the 60s or 50s, and so the technology was limited at the time, right? And so they had to do with what they had, which is what every company does, what every business does. It's what I mean. That is just how things go. But as time has moved on, we've had some advancements in technology, and so it only makes sense that they want to have these freestanding robots, and it only makes sense, especially trying to interact with these kids now who come to these parks, to make more live, like more interpersonal experiences for the customers. Um, I think it's really cool. In the video that you showed before that, in the video, they show the progress of it over the last, I believe, 2 years. I started the project in 2018, and so to see this thing go from this mechanical, cold machine to now it's Groot. It's so cool to see, and again, for younger kids to see this. A great example of this kind of already in play would be with R2D2 and BB-8 live, actual props of these characters in movies. Um, and I remember myself as a little boy going to Disney, seeing Stitch and Mickey and Buzz Lightyear, for the first time, and it's magical, right? It's a really cool experience, and so to be
Right.
able to do that with CGI characters and little robots of them too, I think that's really cool. I think that's
Yeah.
really neat.
Definitely. The one thing I did want to kind of highlight about this article, though, is there was this comment here by Trevor L. He goes, "This coupled with the recent news of a Mario toy crying for the owner to buy its brother makes me kind of unnerved, but a cuddly Groot robot, next thing you know, your kid's asking for the whole Avengers cast because Groot can't fall asleep without his pals." I found this is hilarious. Props to Trevor L out there for saying that. I completely agree. It's one of those things where it's like, what how far is too far? Like, are we going to, granted this isn't necessarily destined for the commercial market, but will there be a day where something like that actually happens? And the only reason I saw this comment is because I was reading through the story and I'm like, oh, there's just one comment. And I saw that, and it's interesting. It's got a fair bit of dislike though on the article there, but it's definitely interesting nonetheless.
The internet will have its fun when it wants to have fun. But no, who knows? Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be having little, autonomous robot toys, for our kids. Who knows? It could be us giving those to
Who
our kids.
knows?
I mean, we're what is it, 10 years probably till we have Fitz Jr. and Grizz Jr. probably, right? I mean, who knows? Who knows? And that technology too, in the video, I mean, that was 3 years of building and design. So who knows the
Who
next 10 years
knows?
if they can miniaturize that, or if they can, bring the cost down for consumers, right? But yeah, it is so cool to have those at the parks.
Definitely. Well, something that is really cool too is you may be wondering, all right, why do you have this title on this episode? There is a very great article that we wanted to go into a little bit of depth with through Wired that Grislow actually sent in. Uh, they hacked McDonald's ice cream machines and started a Cold War. And wonderful credit to Wired for this. This is a very, very large story. I highly recommend you go and read it. Um, but Matt, you want to kind of explain a little bit about the situation?
Yes, this is, yeah, like Fitz said, this is a really complex article. It's really long. There's a lot of backstory involved. This article alone could probably be a small novel, um, or a short film, right?
Or a good
Um,
documentary, yeah.
or a great documentary. Actually, you're right. But nonetheless, this article talks about the ice cream machines at McDonald's. I'm sure a lot of you have gone to McDonald's and experienced that moment where you're ordering ice cream and they say the ice cream machine's broken or it's down for maintenance or cleaning or whatever. This article details kind of everything about that machine and how complex it is. That machine, just to give some quick things about it, it costs $18,000. It's unlike a lot of the other ice cream machines because you're able to have soft serve and milkshakes being produced at the same time because they have two sort of different systems inside of this machine. So you can have soft serve and milkshakes at the same time. You're able to pump out 10 ice cream cones in a minute with this machine. And we were doing some math before we got into the show. We found that on average, it's about, we rounded it up to, I think, $1.25 or $1.50. I think we said $1.25.
Yeah, we did $1.25.
National average. We looked at Indiana and Illinois prices and kind of averaged between theirs. It was below $1.25, but we rounded up just to be safe. So we thought, okay, well, if they're selling these at $1.25 a piece, right, and you've got 10 a minute, that's $12.50 a minute just on these ice cream sales. Extrapolate that out for the hour. I mean, you're looking at a serious chunk of change there. And especially if that hour we're talking about here is that, either the lunch hour or the like after school, sort of like picking up from after school hour, that's a lot of money. And so if your machine is down, that really does impact your sales. And so what this article does go into detail about is not only how complex these machines are, but because of how complex these machines are, people have been frustrated with them and trying to figure out ways to and there's a great picture of some of the internals of the machine. So you have these little gaskets that have to be repositioned after they're taken out. I believe after every
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Yes. So they have to. They have a cleaning. If you can keep it on the screen while I talk about this really quick. They have a cleaning system, a cleaning mode on their freezers, and so that cycles and cleans a lot of the stuff, but you, despite that, have to clean these specific pieces. I don't know if you can zoom in on it at all here, but the pieces go from these sort of long tubes and big sort of shafts to small little nuts and bolts and little gaskets. And if you don't position them right, if you forget them, if you lose them in this cleaning process, you're screwed. The machine will not work, and you will then have to call maintenance. And the franchise locations have been almost ordered by McDonald's to have these service contracts with the Taylor, the company that makes these machines, so that they can come in and repair. Apple takes a cut of that, and these
McDonald's takes a cut of that, not Apple.
Yeah. McDonald's.
Yeah, you said Apple.
Oh, I did? Oh,
yeah, no
I was
worries.
thinking of McDonald's.
I mean, I could see Apple getting a cut of it for some reason too, but I digress.
So McDonald's takes a cut of it. And so now you start building this really unfortunate case where you have these franchise owners where they're spending thousands upon thousands of dollars on these machines. They have to then go into contracts with verified people that can fix their machines, and they don't really know what's going on with their machines because this company is very secretive about it, and they don't really give a good diagnostics panel. And so now we bring in this thing called a kitch, this little device, and what this is this little device powered by a Raspberry Pi, and it plugs into your Taylor ice cream machine, and it's able to get all kinds of diagnostic data, and it plugs in and is able to route that wirelessly to this app with this supposedly good UI that's able to tell its users all kinds of information about their freezers, what's going on, and specifically what's going on, not just, oh, your freezer's down or your auger doesn't work or whatever the piece is. No, it gives you very specific information, proprietary insights. Actually, the perfect, a good way to put it, especially, their website right there puts it really nicely. They're able to do this with these freezers or these ice cream machines. And so you have a lot of these franchise owners that saw this technology and went, oh, wow, well, if we can keep our machines running, for a cost of, I believe it's, they were giving device free for the first 6 months. and then a subscription service of $10 for the months after, or per month. Paying $120 a year to be able to know about your moneymaker, I think is pretty important. And so you had a lot of franchisees go to this company and buy this product. Well, unfortunately, because McDonald's and Taylor are the way they are, they tried to sabotage this company, and they tried to reverse engineer this product, and they've done that successfully. And they have their own version of this now. And now what we have is this company, Kitsch, is now trying to sue, what is it, Taylor or McDonald's?
I don't think it mentions anything about any legal proceedings actually starting yet. But
it's not starting yet, but I believe they're
getting ready
claiming, yeah. So they're getting ready to for the suit, and essentially it's all around the right to repair and the right to know about the machine that you have, about the diagnostics of it, about all the inner machinations of it. McDonald's has its stance, and so does Taylor, and the owners, the franchisee owners, have their own stance. And so it's going to be a real interesting unfolding events here to see what goes on, what gets ruled, if anything does get ruled, if it doesn't, or get settled out of court. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one, Fitz, because there's a lot around this story.
Well, there is a ton to unpack here. Well, like you said, the main issue here is right to repair, and whether somebody who purchases a machine, in this case an ice cream machine for $18,000, needs to be forced by the manufacturer to use all of their stuff, all of their support warranties, or be able to not access certain features within the machine that would tell them the part to replace. Because with this system, basically what the system does is it unlocks the menus, and it basically acts as if it's a technician connecting to the unit. And then just displaying that data to you rather than you calling the technician to do the exact same thing. It just sits within the device and actually pulls that data. I am very, very much so. I support the right for people to repair the things they own, to work on the things they own. But I also do see the point of manufacturers not wanting to tarnish their brand, their products, with out of market repairs. I understand that they have a certain quality that they need to meet, and by using the quality technicians and the people who they've trained to work on these machines the right way, that provides the best service to them. However, I don't feel as though that needs to be something that is required for you to use the machine. And that's the big issue here, because these service contracts are required for the McDonald's franchise owners to use that machine. And it's thousands of dollars a month for them to have the machine, have the support agreement, and call a technician when something breaks. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think I alluded this earlier, and I really do fully support the right to repair, the right to modify, purchase equipment, and it should not be mandated. It should not be, in my own opinion, should not be mandated, or should not be, made difficult by the manufacturer for the consumer to do that. And this is not the first time we've heard or seen of this happening. I think the number one products or the number one company that people do rage against the machine on would be Apple. They've made their devices so complex and so small and so perfect, right?
And difficult to open or
that they've inadvertently made it very difficult to repair. And so now you have this company, Apple, saying, okay, well, you can only get it repaired with us or one of our, trusted support people. And it can still be very expensive to do that versus just going to a local shop to get a repair done. I actually did that with my iPhone last fall. My port was faulty. I couldn't. Not only was the coronavirus pandemic making it difficult to get into an Apple store for a Genius Bar appointment, but it was also just way too expensive to go to an Apple store or to go to one of their support people. So I ended up going just to a local shop where they repaired my port for like $50. But it's so hard. And again, Apple's not the only company. John Deere has been under sort of fire for this as well, to upgrade their machines and do sort of modifications of machines. You have to go directly to John Deere. And if you mod your
tractor,
tractor,
yeah,
you basically void your warranty. And it's tough to then get help from there
even
on.
though
And
even though
so
there's things that could be software limited on the tractor that doesn't allow you to do certain things within the tractor itself. And
exactly.
similar case here too, where you have the Taylor machine here being software limited to not do certain things because of the manufacturer not enabling those options. I
Well,
I
it's and it's
understand
it's
when it's
not
like
just
a
it's not
technician or
just the
maintenance, but
limitations, but it's also they're not giving users the ability to access the information too.
it's yeah, they in the article they actually start out saying like press the cone icon on the screen, uh, tap the button that shows a snowflake and a milkshake, set the digits on the screen to 5, then 2, then 3, then 1. After that precise series, no fewer than 16 button presses, a menu magically unlocks for you to. With this cheat code, you can access the machine's vital signs, everything from viscosity, setting its milk, and sugar ingredients to the temperature or the glycol flowing through its heating element. Like, it's
It
things.
shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, it's manufacturers trying to hide information from you about the thing that you own. In a lot of cases, the manufacturers say it's for simplicity, making sure you know the product. But I don't think, in my personal opinion, that it should be limited because it's advanced. You're going to have the people like the guy who's earning, or the guy who's been working at McDonald's for 2 weeks working with the machine, as well as the seasoned technician. Like, they're both going to be the same people. You could have a simple mode and you could have an advanced mode. Like, those are two different things. You're designing for two different target audiences, but at the same time you need to be able to accept both of those use cases as valuable and warranted for the product that somebody just spent $18,000 on.
Exactly. I mean, it's you're gatekeeping information about the device that you own, and are saying, okay, only the people that we allow you to go to, that you have to pay, that you have no choice to but pay, only they can access this information. Um, and to me, that's absurd. It's especially ludicrous because of how much you have to pay for this device. $18,000. I mean, yeah, it's very capable. It's very, I don't want to say state of the art because I don't believe it's state of the art, but
I
it's
don't
very
know.
complex and complicated. But it's also one of their top of the line models. So I understand why they price it so highly. But for that price to be so high, and there to be so much gatekeeping behind the software for it, behind the inner workings of it, to me, that's absurd.
Right. And like I said, it's one thing for a manufacturer to ensure quality, to ensure the product is working correctly. It's another thing to prevent somebody who wants to fix their own thing from doing it in a logical way, and forcing somebody, in order to use the product that they just paid for, to buy a subscription to use it. In a lot of cases, we see that with like internet service providers or things like that. But I feel like that's a very different case because they are providing you the continual service that is the product itself, and the
Mm,
hardware that you have in your house, whether that be their router or their modem or whatever, is the means by which that service is provided. In this case, they aren't providing the ice cream itself. They're The machine is providing the ice cream itself, and they're merely ensuring that the machine is able to provide said service. That's like the Comcast guy just showing up at your house and looking at your router and being like, "Yep, it's good." Like,
yeah. Ugh, that bugs me so much too. Don't even get me started on that one. Oh my goodness. The whole idea of, oh, we'll give you a time to come to your house, and it could be, a 6-hour window. Oh god. Gosh.
right. But anyway, like I said, the with an ISP, they're giving you the service itself. Like the product is the service itself. In this
Right.
case, with the ice cream machine, the product is the produced ice cream from the machine. The machine is the means in which to produce the ice cream, and the service contract that goes along with that is merely to keep the machine running. Um, you're not. It's not the machine being serviced by this exact person at this exact time with this exact part is not essential for the continual production of ice cream.
Correct.
And that's
Correct.
that's
I agree.
that's that's the issue that I have, where it's like I can't have an AT&T guy show up at my house to fix a Comcast router. Like that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
But with this, like I can go in there and I could 3D print a part or something that I could fix that part instead of paying Taylor 2 grand for some part or something like that. But it's just
Well, you got to be careful there because I will make a broad assumption only because I think this is probably a good assumption to make. Fitz, I would assume that most McDonald's franchise owners do not own a 3D printer that they can just 3D print parts to their $18,000 Taylor ice cream machine. Maybe
right.
it's a purchase that they'll eventually have to make later on.
And I'm not saying that that's every single use case, but think about a power user or somebody who's very technical, or even other like plumbers or appliance repair guys that just do this as a living. They may be endorsed by a couple manufacturers as like authorized servicers, but probably not for an enterprise grade machine such as this. Um, it would be cost effective for a McDonald's employee to be able to go and hire Joey Repairman, who's really good at fixing everything else at that McDonald's factory or that McDonald's franchise, and fix that machine as well. So I mean I like I said, I could see from the manufacturer's point of view why they would want that, but I just don't think that it's great for consumers to be locked into it.
I think, yeah, I think that's a very good way of kind of putting it. I think you're right. There is a sort of responsibility that manufacturers have to their consumers that they make sure and ensure that their products work correctly. However, I think in this case, when you add on that extra layer of that subscription sort of fee, let's call it, or that service fee, where it's recurring and you are required to pay for it, not only because you own the machine, but also just because you have to. Like you don't have a choice. Your machine could be working perfectly. You could be, for example, and God, if this McDonald's exists, I want to know the location of it because I will be going there every day. But if there exists a location of a McDonald's location that it never experiences a breakdown in their machines, then they're essentially throwing away money monthly or whatever the period is, to make sure that in the event where it breaks down, that they're able to get it serviced. It's almost like paying insurance.
In a
It's
way,
almost like paying
yes.
insurance. But
But your claims
I
cost a lot more than the actual insurance itself.
exactly. It's very much like insurance. But unlike unlike you having a higher probability of getting in a car accident, you're probably gonna have a low probability if your machine works properly, of breakdowns. Not only if your parts are working, but if you know more about it. And this goes back to the whole kitsch device that they have in order to look at these diagnostics and the right to be able to not modify. Maybe it is modifying your device. I mean, would you consider that modifying it, or
I mean,
what would you consider that?
I would actually consider that modifying it, just because depending on how they actually hook up with the boards in there, unless it's literally just a plug and play, like, all right, place this connector onto this area, um, I think you may have an issue, because in one of the pictures on this article here, they show the unit itself, the little kitsch unit thingy itself. Um, Let me see if I could find it real quick here. Here it is. Um, Basically, they show the unit itself, and they have these two connectors on it right here. And in my experience, that looks very similar to what's called an FTDI to USB adapter. And basically, what that allows you to do is it connects onto a like a jumper wire on the circuit board, and basically allows you to talk to the circuit board directly, and then you plug it into a USB port and do whatever with that data. In
Mm.
that case, I feel as though if your modifications can be instantly removed, like you could just go boop and you can unplug it, I see no issue. But if it's one of the things where it's like, all right, you got to literally take some components off the board, put it back on, uh, like solder this part here, like that's very different from literally plugging in a something to an outlet in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think and I suppose I could know more about it, but my stance on it is um, when you're adding the system to it, you are you're trying to just get more information out of it. You're not trying to destroy it, right? I think it would be different if the franchisee owners were trying to add different, for example, like tubes or different
other flavors or like
yeah,
yeah.
or just like physical components, trying to actually modify the device itself, not add another feature to it like this. So I guess I would take the same stance as maybe Apple, except maybe a different stance or a modified stance. So I would say this: if you're trying to just get the diagnostics out of your device, for example, a specific example of this ice cream machine, you just want more control the information, right? To be able to know about what's going on with it, even if you have to have this service contract, right? That should not be a problem. This putting this device in there should not be a problem. I can see what could be a problem would be if you do that, you could say, okay, well, you are now voiding your warranty with us. And if you do that, then we cannot service it and you'll have to buy a new machine. I think maybe making that like a new policy moving forward.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick right there. I 100% agree with that. Like, if you want to modify a device and a manufacturer is like, all right, this device is no longer part of our supported network. This is no longer what we are allowing you to do with the device. We are hands off on it. I support that. Like, if a manufacturer wants to say, all right, you added this thing that we don't support, we're not going to service it, distance yourself from the situation, that is fine. But that's a risk that the person modifying the machine has to know and has to take.
Fully accept,
I
right?
feel like, yeah, you have to fully accept that risk. Like, I could see that being a lot more of a compromise in a situation like this, rather than you are forced to buy this service contract, you are forced to get this warranty, you are forced to do whatever we want you to do, and you can't do anything with that machine to bring it out of our specified specifications. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
so I don't know. I mean, we could go on for hours and hours for this article here, but it is definitely an interesting read. Brings a ton of interest into the right to repair movement come up. There's a lot of resources on YouTube for right to repair information. I would highly recommend watching a couple videos by Louis Rossmann. He is very adamantly right to repair, also supporting iFixit. That also helps with right to repair stuff as well. But I'm very much so in support of a right to repair compromise in a situation where manufacturers allow people to make modifications to their devices without preventing them from making those modifications with acceptable risk. So that's my stance on it.
Yeah, I'll echo. Just yeah, I agree. I think it's fair. I think it's time where we, as consumers, stand up to these big tech companies and these big organizations and say we will no longer be subject to your smoke and mirrors terms of service. We want the right to repair our own devices. We want the right to know what's going on with our devices so that we can make informed decisions as consumers as to how best to move forward with this. You know, if you void a warranty and you break your thing, that's on you. Then if you got to buy a new device, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a tracker in case John Deere, or this $18,000 ice cream machine. But it still remains that the fact of it is the consumers want more control over the products that they buy, and I think it's high time, and it's coming to the point where there's going to be a big right to repair movement. It's only going to gain more traction, and it's only going to be more and more mainstream. So we'll see where this ends up going.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. Great way of putting that. I'd also add to the people who know the risk, take their own risk, do the things they want to do with their device, and aren't being forced into not getting as much potential as they know they could get out of it. So that's where I definitely think there will be a ton more in the future looking for this, and we will be following this situation closely as it develops, and other right to repair issues as well. So Matt or Grislow, I'd like to thank you once again for coming out today. This was a lot of fun. Very nice episode. We were on for like an hour and 25 minutes here, but it is a lot of fun, and it's always a pleasure to chat. So
there's no better way. I'd rather spend my Sundays, or Sunday mornings, I suppose.
All righty. Well, thank you all for joining us today on Tech Talk Nation. I'm Matt Fitzgerald, and this is Matt Grislow, and thank you guys so much for coming, and tune in next week for more.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.